This week, Breaking Through News is doing a series on remembering 9/11. Most Americans have vowed to never forget what happened on September 11th, 2001. Retired Assistant Fire Chief John White is a 32-year veteran of the Arlington County Fire Department. White was among hundreds of firefighters and other first responders to arrive at the Pentagon after terrorists flew a plane into the building.
The tower that morning, which was tracking that plane, had alerted MWA's fire department at Reagan that we've got this plane, it's heading inbound. It looks like it's heading for the 14th Street Bridge. And so they headed out and they were on the road. And one of their crash trucks was arriving at the Pentagon about the time that I arrived at our command post in South Parkin 7 minutes after the impact. The plane that hit the Pentagon was a Boeing 757 set up for transcontinental flight. And so it carried a lot of fuel. It took off from Dulles Airport earlier that morning en route to Los Angeles. And it was a nonstop flight from Dulles to Los Angeles. And so it was full of fuel. It got over Ohio when the terrorists on the plane overtook the crew and turned it around and headed back for D.C.
To the north of your tower. Just give that. Yeah, stop all departures. Stop all. Yeah, went in the Pentagon. Looks like it went in the Pentagon.
Not one firefighter perished in the terrorist attack at the Pentagon. That's because emergency responders were notified about the plane flying off its course, according to Chief White.
Primary heading towards the White House. The White House has been advised.
All right, I'll tell him.
Even though that it was probably the biggest firefight our department had ever been involved with, the amount of fire in the building was unbelievable. And those guys, having to make plans to go in and put that fire out was very monumental.
Sadly, 184 people were killed at the Pentagon on 9/11. 343 firefighters and more than 70 law enforcement officers were killed when terrorists flew planes into the World Trade Center in New York City. The fire chief says the Pentagon was actually under renovation at the time of the attack. But a major concern for fire officials was dealing with the fuel leaking from the plane.
They attacked the fire with their crash truck just as if it had crashed at the airport. And so large amounts of foam.
Chief White says not everything went as smoothly as it did during training.
I know I had over 100 people just in the medical sector working, the number. Some of the ambulances that we had called to assist us never even arrived at the Pentagon because they would be commandeered up on Interstate 395 or some of the other approach roads because of people self-evacuating out of the building or helping colleagues get out of the building. They see an ambulance approaching, they waved them down, and they were taking care of victims up there. So a large number of the victims self-transported themselves to one of the area hospitals along with the numbers that we transported.
And there were even more unforeseen issues.
We had a very difficult time extinguishing the fire on the roof because 1940s insulation is horsehair. And the parapet roof that's on top of the concrete slab that is the real roof is just full of horsehair. And it was extremely difficult to extinguish and burned very hot once it got on fire. And we had crews. That was one of the more gut-wrenching moments the morning of September 11th, was when we were evacuated and they sent out the signal over the radio to evacuate the building. One of my very close friends, former partner when I was a battalion chief, was leading crews on the roof, and they determined that in the time that the radio said the plane was due to arrive at our location, they didn't have enough time to evacuate the roof. And so they made the decision and notified the command post that they were staying put and continuing to fight the fire. And because they couldn't get down through the building and out to an area of safety in the time that we were being told that the plane was going to take to get to us. So to hear him talk on the radio and hear that was very emotional. And, you know, I was very glad when we found out that that plane did not come to us. You know, and nobody knows really, I don't think, what the intended target was in the D.C. area, whether it was the Capitol, whether it was the White House, whether it was the Pentagon again, a second plane into the Pentagon. Nobody knows because everybody died. And so, and nobody ever found any documentation that say what the targets were. And so, you know, we were just very grateful for the people that were on that plane that took it down in Pennsylvania.
We're 56865. We have, I believe it is a Boeing 757. Can you see him up there, sir?
That's confirmed. It looks like he's rocking his wings.
Roger.
He's rocking back and forth.
We're 56865. I advise you stay away from that aircraft. Go north as fast as you can.
United 93. Have you got information on that yet?
Yeah, he's down.
He's down?
Yes.
When did he land?
He did not land.
Oh, he's down?
Yeah,
Bound?
somewhere up northeast of Camp David.
The fire chief admits working during 9/11 was scary, especially dealing with limited communication. But the assurance of safety put the first responders at ease.
It was very frightening, and because knowing what happened in New York, and by the time that we got the all clear from the second aircraft, we had heard rumors that one of the towers had fell in New York. And so, everybody was, okay, this is what we're paid to do. Let's get to it and get on with it, and get back to work. And this is the incident that we've spent a career training for. So let's do it. But everybody was thinking, okay, what's the next shoe to drop? And everybody felt a sense of relief when all of a sudden we hear an F-16 come flying over the Pentagon, coming up the Potomac River and fly over the Pentagon and wagged its wings at us. And then we said, okay, we got cover.
We will be continuing the response to the terrorist attack of 9/11. Elaine Rackley for Breaking Through News.